We live in a world today that hungers for meaning. The lack of meaning that so many people feel is due, at least in part, to our attempt to live from one of two stories. The first story, told by many Christians, is about getting out of this world and going to heaven with God. It's a story of escape. You see, meaning, according to this story, is not found here, but in heaven. And this telling of the Christian story has led many people to judge that our Christian life is simply irrelevant to the concerns of the real world. The opposite story that many people live from, often told by academics and scientists, is that this world is all there is. It's a story that says there is no God, there is no heaven. It's a story ultimately of emptiness. And any talk of God or heaven just seems odd, according to this story. And don't worry, because the marketplace will supply all the meaning you need. And underneath that story's message is a deeper one, a darker one that says, take whatever you can get. That's how you find meaning. Now, what's strange to me is that both of these views of life actually share one thing in common. They both believe that heaven and earth repel each other. The first story, the escape from this world story, believes this world is bad and so we have to get out of it. The other story, the secular story, believes that any talk of God or heaven just ties us down and diminishes our humanity. Well, today I want to tell you a different kind of story, one that many Christians don't know about, but is fundamental to our faith and to the gospel. And I think it offers the kind of hope and meaning our world desperately needs. This story begins with a relationship. And that relationship starts when God creates our vast and ancient universe. And God creates all things so that God can come to us and we can know God and live full, flourishing lives. Remember how Yahweh came to Adam and Eve in the garden, and how God came to Moses in the burning bush. And then Yahweh came to dwell with Israel in the ark and with the covenant, and ultimately in the temple in Jerusalem. This story of God continually coming to us was the story that Jesus told and lived by. Jesus believed that God's kingdom was coming on earth, and that God's presence and power was coming into people's lives through the things Jesus said and did, especially as he healed them and forgave them and ate with them. This is the story of God's coming to us and to creation. It's the story of God's deep, deep desire to be with us and to share God's life with us, so that one day God's presence and beauty would fill all things. And we hear this same story in today's gospel, where Jesus promises that he and the Father will one day come and dwell with us, and that he will give us God's peace and God's Spirit. This story, the story of God's coming to us, challenges the escape from heaven story, and it challenges the world without God story. And this story is our story. It's your story. Your entire life Jesus has been coming to you through all kinds of people and experiences, coming to you to offer you his life. And we've all been invited to participate in God's activity of creating a new world by coming to us through Jesus and the Spirit. Now, you know how this story ends? Well, it ends as all great stories end, with a marriage. It ends with the marriage of heaven and earth coming together to be united. If you read the book of Revelation, especially chapters 20 and 21, you will see how that book uses powerful images to convey this idea of the coming together of heaven and earth. Listen to what the book of Revelation tells us. The holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared like a bride dressed up for her husband. So John in the book of Revelation is seeing the heavenly Jerusalem coming from heaven down to earth. And then he says, look, God has come to dwell with humans. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will dwell with them. This image is not an image of escape or of God's absence. It's an image of God's presence, of heaven and earth coming down and being united. And when God finally dwells with us, when the marriage of heaven and earth occurs, a new world will be born. Look, I am doing something new. I am making all things new, says God. And the ways of the old world will pass away. It's strange, in this passage from the book of Revelation, there's no more sea. There's no more ocean. Because in the Bible, the sea is the image of chaos. And when the marriage of heaven and earth occurs, there'll be no more chaos, no more danger, destruction, or death. There'll be no more tears, no more suffering, no more death and pain. And when God makes all things new, God's beauty will shine through all things. The book of Revelation imagines in the new city of Jerusalem, where God dwells, there will be a river, a sparkling river, running right through the city, coming out of God's throne and running through the city. And along the sides of the river will be the trees of life, with this incredible fruit and leaves. And just by eating the leaves from the tree of life, the nations will be healed. So we are the people, and we are the place where heaven and earth have begun to meet. This vision in the future of the marriage of heaven and earth has begun because the engagement has occurred. And the engagement where heaven and earth begin to meet is Jesus. And we gathered here are the place where this continues to occur. It's why we celebrate saints and sacraments. So our lives and our actions must anticipate God's future promise, what God promised to do for all of creation, because we are the children of the coming marriage. So with the book of Revelation, pray with me the following prayer. Come, Lord Jesus. Come into our hearts and minds. Come, Lord Jesus. Come into our families and our parish. Come, Lord Jesus. Come into our homes and places of work. Come, Lord Jesus, and fill all things with your presence.